started here.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Okay. You're good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Jennifer.
Okay, tonight's meeting is being convened in accordance with recent amendments to the New York State Open Meetings Law that allows the board to convene virtually. A transcript will be provided of the meeting at a later date. The meeting is being streamed live via YouTube. And we do have a quorum of the members present at tonight's meeting. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Chairman.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Jennifer. So here we are. It's Tuesday, July 5. Hope everyone had a good holiday. And we'll move into our first item. And our first item is a public hearing. This is for 79 South Greeley Avenue, Bank of America. This is an application for a site development plan approval for redesign of building exterior lighting, exterior painting, rewrap of awning, and new sign. This is one of, it's a new application, but it's one that we felt that we could move directly to public hearing to try to move this along for the applicants as expeditiously as possible. So perhaps the applicants can give us a quick synopsis of what they're proposing. First of all, I guess we need a motion to open the public hearing.
Yeah.
That will serve. Tom, a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we'll open the public hearing, and if the applicant could provide us with some updates and synopsis of the proposals, we'll take it from there.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Tamika. I am working with Project Expeditors on behalf of Bank of America. And what we're proposing is exterior lighting upgrades to include some new lighting, as well as replacing a lot of existing fixtures. We're also proposing to paint the exterior of the bank white. And we're going to be rewrapping the existing awning, so we're not putting new structures up. We're going to reuse what is there existing. It's going to be a gray canopy or awning with some white Bank of America lettering and white logo on that, as well as new signage. Now it's still going to be that internally illuminated panel letters with the traditional Bank of America logo. We had previously proposed some exterior trimming. We completely removed that from our application based on the guidance that we were provided from the board before and that pre-application meeting. I also have my engineer is also on the call, Jason, for any questions regarding lighting. And that's pretty much where we're at right now. Just the exterior lighting, the painting, and just kind of refreshing the bank space.
Okay, very good. Sabrina, do you want to go through your comments? Hi, Sabrina.
Good evening, everyone. I'll be happy to go through my comments. Sorry I was a little bit late arriving here tonight. So for the most part, the overall lighting plan right now, the lights, there seems to be some shifting of lights on the building as compared to what's on there today. There's some lights in the back of the building that are now being relocated towards the front and side of the building. The overall lighting plan is really spilling over into the roadway, and in our code, we don't allow light spillage beyond the property line. There are an additional 7+ light fixtures being added to the South Greeley side of the building, including the corner entry, which are causing the light spillage. The applicant should address and maintain the light on their building and not within the roadway. This may result in reducing the number of proposed new fixtures. The lumens that the applicant is representing appear to be within our specifications, so there's no concern there. I think it's really the quantity of light and the angles of the lights. We don't want it to affect the cars driving by. There are 3 existing light fixtures right now in the rear of the building which face the parking lot. They have been relocated. I'm not sure if it was the intention to leave that space dark in the back of the parking lot. Maybe talk to us as to why you're relocating them and why that part of the parking lot will not be lit. The security lighting plan is the plan that definitely shows the light spillage into the roadway. even though the candle foot reading beyond the compliance radius is not shown on the plan. So that is something that we'll need to put on the plan. And then the other comment I had is in general note 3, it talks about cutting and trimming of the trees. I'm asking that it be removed and replaced with the following language, that no tree cutting, pruning, or trimming is allowed. I'm not sure if Dennis has, I'm sure Dennis will speak to this, but those are newly planted trees. They're not obstructing your building in any way. To cut them at this point would be detrimental to their health. The other information I wanted to provide to the board is that the applicant is proposing to paint the building white from its currently red brick color and replace the awnings with black awnings and replacement signage. The action itself is considered a type 2 action in accordance with SECRA under maintenance or repair involving no substantial changes. And we put this before your board tonight as a public hearing so that you can move quickly on it if you so choose.
Very good. Thank you. Dennis, did you have any comments now that the application has been changed about the pruning of the trees out there? Do you have any other issues or questions or comments that we need to hear?
No, once I saw Sabrina put that language in her memo, that was pretty much my opinion as well. I mean, I don't see the trees are struggling to look like trees in some cases, so I didn't want anything to be pruned.
Right, makes good sense. Thank you. The question for the applicant, we've seen this before with banks and ATMs. We understand that you're under certain requirements in terms of certain levels of lighting and certain circumference of lighting around an ATM. But this seems to go beyond that. Is there a way of redirecting lighting so that you stay in conformance with the state's requirements for safety, but also reduce the spillage? And I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about the rear of the building as Sabrina raised.
Wait, Jason, we can't hear you.
You may be unmute.
He's not representing to be muted, so I don't know if your audio is connected.
No, he's not muted. It might be the headset.
Well, I guess while he's working through that, I'm looking at the plan. I don't see that those lights are removed though in the back. I do see that TG1 and BZ1 are in the back of the building. Is there something else?
If you put up if you can share your screen to show the plan, there is an area in the back northern corner of the building that is lit today.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Can you see it? Okay.
Okay, let's see here.
So I'm looking at the back of the building here. We've got TG1.
Right. If you keep going to the right on the screen, right
Okay.
here, there are 2 or 3 lights here today. And this whole area is now dark.
Well, I don't see that we're removing those fixtures. Maybe it's just that that's not noted on the plan as existing to remain.
Okay.
And however that may be, I was given the impression that they were being removed and relocated.
Okay. No, I don't believe so. Obviously, I'll let Jason.
Yeah, is everyone ever able to hear me?
We can hear you now.
Perfect. Okay,
I'll keep this up on my screen. This way everyone
Thank
can see
you.
it. Yeah.
So yes, I'm Jason Natash, civil engineer on this project. So basically a little background. Bank of America has a nationwide program that they're implementing at their sites, which basically evaluates all of the existing lighting and again, brings it into compliance with the state and bank security lighting standards. For this location, we have those 2 ATMs that are located within the lobby, and then the 1 after-hour depository located along South Greeley Avenue, which we are showing 7 new fixtures along that South Greeley Avenue because of that after-hour depository that's being shown on the plans there. And then in terms of the lighting in the rear, there's nothing back there in terms of ATM or after-hour depository that the bank is looking at here to meet their standards. We're just replacing those 3 existing wall fixtures that are being shown there. And then there are existing area lights within the parking lot, but those are not within the scope of this project. But there are area lights back there that provides illumination for the overall parking lot.
Can you speak to the security lighting? Is this a Bank of America protocol, or is this is it consistent with New York State's requirements?
So this is a state. New York is actually a regulated state, and then it's the Bank of America requirements as well. They fall in line in New York, so they'll have that 5-foot radius that extends outwards from your lobby and your after-hour depository. That has to meet a minimum of 10-foot candles. And then you also have a 50-foot and 60-foot radius that has to be met with a minimum of 2-foot candles, which is really the reasoning of those additional fixtures that are being proposed along South Greeley Avenue there.
So, but those, when you put those fixtures along South Greeley, those are not necessarily, I mean, I understand that there could be some usage, of course, with customers, but those are not specifically required by the regulations. Are they for the circumference around the ATM areas?
It's for the after-hour depository as well. Those have to meet the same requirements as the ATM or the lobby entrance.
Okay, but it has to extend in that linear fashion away from the lobby where
So-
all the deposits go in the lobby too. Are the deposits on the side of the building, or are they
There's-
all in the lobby?
There's one on the side of the building along South Greeley Avenue.
I got it.
Is there any exception due to the public roadway that's there? Because we have very narrow sidewalks in this area, and then you're on the road.
So it usually extends to either the property line, or in this case, it would be the roadway. And anything within that radius is subject to meeting these requirements. The roadway illuminance is shown on the overall lighting plan. I know we got brought up that it wasn't shown on the compliance radius, but those are due to the fact that the readings are taking at 36 inches above grade as compared to the overall lighting plan, which just shows everything at grade.
So I really, this is a decision for the board in
Well,
regard.
We can,
I guess the question I have is for Sabrina and Jennifer, and that is, this is our code locally. Does the planning board have discretion in this area, or is it something that we don't, and therefore they have to go to the zoning board, for example, to get a variance on this lighting?
Well, our code says that it's not to exceed the property line. It doesn't have any exceptions for banks or security lighting. The other thing I'd want to note is if we can note the plan that the existing lights in that back corner where you're showing no light fixtures, the existing lights are to remain on here. So make that notation on the plan. But I would defer to Jen to see if, because we're dealing with security issues, if this kind of exceeds our authority, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to take a look at the code to see if there is, depending upon where the restriction is in the code, depends on whether the planning board has the authority to vary the requirements and to allow for exceptions.
I think the planning board does.
Hmm?
The planning board does not have that authority.
Based on where this is located within the code.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's a matter of, can the applicant go to the zoning board of appeals to obtain a variance, or does the state regulation in this regard supersede our local code?
Yeah, the state regulation would supersede if the state is saying that you have to have a certain lighting intensity that would be in violation of our code. That they have to comply with the state code for the safety purposes.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily mean that they would not be required to obtain a variance from our local code, though.
Right. And so is it possible for you guys to give us a copy of that statute or the requirements so that we could do some research on it to find out how best to refer you or to reference this?
absolutely, we can provide that.
And I think what we can do for tonight's purposes is, the planning board can take an action to refer the applicant to the zoning board in the event the applicant does need to obtain that variance based on our research. That way that procedural step is taken care of, and that can be accomplished, before the applicant comes back to the planning board to close this out.
Mhm. Yeah, okay. That we've seen this before, but in other cases, we had banks that were closer to residential areas, and therefore the concern was a little bit more acute. From my perspective, we're talking about, so-called downtown hamlet. The impacts are less significant. I'd be interested to see whether or not the applicant can, reduce some of that spread just by tilting some of the lighting fixtures and putting different hoods on. But I certainly understand their concern and, of course, their need to comply with the state regulation. I don't know what other board members think about that. Tom, Dick, Kanan, if you want to weigh in.
Well,
If I could ask if you're not speaking, to please mute your computer.
so yeah, I do have a couple of questions. I understand and appreciate the security regulations that are not only for obviously the benefit of the bank, but also of the public. But if I could try and understand them a little better, the regulation that you're citing that has to do with security around the ATMs and the depository are lighting minimums for a certain radius from each of those facilities. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you have a diagram, it's not on the screen right now, but you had a diagram that showed the radius at the entry where the ATMs are, and the one on the right where the depository is on South Greeley. That one that's right there on the right that's got a fixture in it that's labeled TB. The TB1, is that a light fixture?
Yes. That'll
Okay,
be
so,
one of the
sorry, go ahead.
that'll be one of the new fixtures that's being proposed there.
Okay, so there's TJ1, TB1, TF1. These are smaller fixtures that are under the canopies or just on the wall?
So the smaller ones will be actually, I believe the TJ ones are actually under the canopy, and then the TB one is a smaller wall one. And then you can see the HV1 and HV2s. Those are bigger area lights that are being mounted on the wall in this location to actually reach out for the further compliance radii.
Got it. So could you do me a favor and could you go through each of those fixtures and show us what they are and what the general sort of lumen specs are?
So those are all shown, yeah. We kind of have to toggle in between the pages here, but you can see the canopy fixtures that are being shown here. Those are at the noted number 2 there, and then at the bottom here, there's 2 canopy fixtures. These are all meeting the 3000 Kelvin standards for the town and also the lumen standards. And then you were looking at the HV1 and 2 there. Those are the typical area lights that are actually being shown on the wall in this location.
Got it.
We can look
Okay.
at lowering the wattages basically for this lighting here to basically still meet the requirements for the bank and the state, but we will have to propose these additional fixtures, especially along South Greeley Avenue, because there's only really 3 out there today and they're not providing anywhere near that illuminance that's needed.
But can I ask you about that regulation? Because I thought that it was was specified. Could you go back to that? Yeah, the radius. The regulation stipulates for that. Could you go back to the plan, please? Whoever had that up. that drawing on the left that shows the radius for the book depository. Sorry, Amanda's a library trustee. The bank depository. That radius is the specified regulated radius for the minimum lumens. Is that right?
For the minimum foot candles, but yes,
Right.
that's correct.
For the security purposes.
Correct.
All right. So if you are using the HV1s in order to achieve that level of lighting that's required, I don't understand why you have so many on the wall. Wouldn't you just need one HV1 at the center of what above the depository? I mean, you don't need HV1 on the right in order to achieve that lighting level, do you?
So that's only for the one radius that we're looking at here. We also have the ones that extend all the way to the roadway. And that's where those HVs come into play here.
That diagram?
Essentially, I have a 30-foot, a 50-foot, and a 60-foot radius, but in this scenario, they only extend to the roadway. So really that 30, 50, and 60 all have the same outward extents that we need to be meeting.
Got it. So that's the dashed horizontal line there, which looks like it's relatively congruent with the curb.
Correct.
Got it. So then the smaller fixtures, those are for what, just amenity? I mean, it appears that there's enough lighting with the required HV1 fixtures. Why do we have all these other fixtures up there?
I think in those certain areas, those are kind of dead areas that we're showing, where those HVs aren't able to kind of reach them.
You can reach the curb, but it can't reach.
So they have more of a forward throw, these area lights, as opposed to any really horizontal throw to them. So you will have some dead spots shown.
The HVs are above the canopy and the Ts are underneath the canopy.
Yeah,
correct.
I think Sabrina.
Canopies are pretty high.
I'm sorry, kind of just one more thing. Sabrina, I think that your interpretation is right. That's what I can read from the photographs.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a general building lighting. I don't think that that's necessary because it's above the canopy, right? So it's building lighting for the sake of identifying it as a business there, rather than it being, I think, lighting which is necessary for the sidewalk. I mean, we do have street lights in town, which I think serve that purpose as well. The reason I'm bringing it up is that I just worry that the whole thing is being overlit, and that it's just really not necessary. I think it's great that you're fixing up the building and cleaning it up and repainting it. I think it's terrific. But I think that because it's going to be painted white, I just wonder if it being lit so brightly, I think it's going to be overlit myself, that it's going to stand out maybe too much from the rest of the buildings, the businesses on the street.
I would completely agree with Tom here. I wonder if you have some regulations of what kind of streets certain lights have to be put on. This would make sense if it was an alleyway between two buildings that you wanted full coverage, you wanted better lighting, you didn't want it to be dark in the night. This is pretty much the main street in town. And we do have street lighting, we do have ambient lighting. I agree that, it might just change what that corner looks like, and it might be overly flooded with light. I'm not sure what that would look like unless you have.
Well, by definition, those lights that the HV1s are not going to light up the immediate sidewalk beneath the canopy. It's almost going to bounce off the canopy and go out even further, spill out further. So by definition, it's those are outward lights, and they seem to be set up to go way beyond what probably is necessary. So yeah, that would be interesting to either to look at those, put those perhaps underneath the canopy, perhaps that would hood them better. But I suspect what Tom and Kanan are saying in terms of changing some of the lumens with some of those lights, the ambient lights might make this more attractive and still meet the security requirements.
I think.
Understood.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And also, since you're painting the building white, 3000 Kelvin is certainly pretty darn good, but that's still pretty bright white. And against the white building, it's going to appear to be even whiter. So it's something else that's going to make it even more reflective and brighter, I think. So again, whatever we can do to kind of get that under control and mitigate it, I think would be very helpful. We understand that you've got to comply with New York State rules. But by the same token, the more we hear about this from folks, from Sabrina and Tom and Kanan, it looks like we're going a little bit beyond what we really need to do.
If I could suggest an alternative, and I'm not a lighting engineer, but there are really, I guess, two basic ways to light public spaces, and we've seen them. We've all seen them. One is fewer fixtures, higher up and brighter. And that's typical parking lot lighting. And then there is the solution to have more fixtures lower down and have them a not so bright. And the problem with the first alternative is it pretty much is a, what's the right word? It takes away the night sky, right? Because the light is way up there. And I think that that's generally a problem with fixtures that are, as I've described them. The other solution is to bring the light down, to shield them so there's less horizontal spread. And because they're lower down, there will be less horizontal spread and there'll be less spread to the sky. And you end up with, you have lights that don't have to be so bright because you have fewer of them. They don't have to be so bright because they're closer to the ground. And you have an environment which is much more pleasant to walk in, much more pleasant as a hamlet kind of a town environment for people to walk in and to enjoy at night. So I understand the technical solution that's being proposed here. I just don't think that it's a good design solution for the context that it's in. I would suggest that one look at a solution that maybe has actually more light fixtures, perhaps, that are lower down. Maybe they're below the level of the canopy and more and have have enough light in order to light the sidewalk and the space you need to have lit. But are more pedestrian friendly and make for a more pleasing town to be in at night.
The canopy, I presume, is going to be a canvas with some sort of steel, metal superstructure.
Yes, the structure itself is remaining. We're
Right.
just reskinning.
I just wonder whether or not that would be conducive to any sort of electrical lighting actually, on that steel superstructure, so it just shines down directly on the sidewalk below the canopy. May give you the safety issue and may be another halfway, way of mitigating the concerns that Kanan and Tom have articulated so well. Just a thought. I don't know what that means. Personally, I think Tom's suggestion of more lighting fixtures, softer lights, really could make a very nice difference.
And Bob, I don't think that you need to necessarily put the lights on the canopy. I believe there's a wall above the window below the canopy. Maybe with the right fixture, you put the lights up in there and see if do the studies to look at all the lighting diagrams and see if something like that would work.
And obviously, I'll let Jason speak to this. This is, I'm also not an engineer, but I do believe that there is a radius that needs to be kept as well. But I'm sure if there's anything that Jason you could do, I'm sure you definitely will.
In terms of proposing all of the lighting below the canopy. If you actually look at where these lights are shown today, they're all above the canopy because basically all of the facade there is actually window. There's only a little breakup for the after-hour depository. So we're really not able to propose all of our fixtures down there. That's why we're maintaining the light above the canopy and using these area lights, again, to get that spread. And then using the canopy lighting with the TJ and the TV fixtures, really to get those dark areas that those area lights aren't able to get because the canopy is there.
So, if the
So-
Yeah, sorry, I got dropped off earlier, but I have a quick question. Is the assumption that the current street lighting just doesn't meet the needs at all, or has that been taken into account? Because there are street lights there already.
So that was also a previous concern that came up in, I believe, the pre-application meeting. These lights are more as an aesthetic for the roadway here. They really don't provide much illuminance. There won't be really any difference between the values we're showing here now and if we were to analyze these existing fixtures. But we did take those into account when we were doing the design here and just determined that there really is no effect on what's being shown and what's being proposed.
I see. I think I would agree with Tom that some of that is intentional, that lower sort of street lighting where you walk along that main street in the evening. It's meant to be that way, and I'm afraid this might be almost like flooding it like the back alley of a building or something like that. And we would certainly not like to see that kind of light unless it's absolutely necessary for the building itself.
Yeah, and Kanan and everybody, what are they indicated? The T fixtures, TB1, TBF. Those are all, unless I'm mistaken, those are all sort of up on the parapet of the building. They're above the awnings.
The T fixtures, I believe they are. If we can go to the detail sheet,
That's
I don't believe those.
Sorry, are you talking about these TF pictures?
TJ1, TB1, TF1. Yeah.
So I believe these small ones are the ones that are on the building under the canopy. Is that not right? And then TB1 is.
Makes sense.
I don't think they are.
Is there an elevation somewhere? Sorry.
Actually, yeah, I have this. This might.
I thought that they were on the parapet of the building, above the canopy.
Those will be the HV.
Yeah.
The mounting,
Sorry, go ahead.
the mounting heights are also shown within that lighting fixture schedule, to kind of give you an idea of which ones are above the canopy and which ones are actually under it.
Sorry.
I have a question. When you're finished with this, will there be less electricity used? I'm assuming all these lights will be LEDs. I'm not sure what the existing ones are.
That's correct. Everything will be upgraded to be LED fixtures in this location.
Okay, that's helpful.
Is it possible to explore fixtures that extend beyond the parapet and beyond the cover here, so that the light is directed onto the building and is hooded and directed? We've seen some of those. I don't know if it's this. I mean, that could be 3 feet or so, maybe more. But if there are fixtures like that that would actually hang up there high, where you're putting the HV1s, but that extend beyond the canopy, but are redirected and shine at the building, that probably will cut down a lot on the spillage and yet provide you with the lighting that you have. I think basically putting floodlights on top of this building, which is what these HV1s are, is really a bad look. And again, cognizant of what you guys need to do in terms of meeting New York State standards, we've got to get this lighting, it seems to me, just directed where it needs to be on the building itself. And I think that's your
Yeah, it's
challenge.
certainly an option we can look at, providing like a post essentially coming off the wall here.
Yep.
In terms of angling it towards the building, again, as long as we're meeting those minimum requirements at the curb line, that's something we could definitely look into.
Can I ask about that? Because I'm not sure. I mean, I've been through the drawings, but I'm not sure that is there a specification here for the length of the arm for the HV fixtures, your security lighting? Because unless I'm mistaken, they're above the canopy. And how do you get the light level you need against the building wall if there's a black canopy underneath the light?
Exactly.
That's where those T fixtures again are coming into play. Those are underneath the canopy.
And why do we need the above canopy? Sorry.
So those are where all the existing fixtures are located today. And again, if we were to place more lights and basically underneath the canopy, we would need a lot more lights to do that. And again, we have these existing windows here and just really limited the throws we're able to get and extend to that curb line. So we're reusing the existing locations and just updating them with these wall mount fixtures. There's no arms to them right now. They're just going to be wall mounted. But they do provide that outward throw that's needed.
So let me ask you, instead of, if the T fixtures in the location of a T fixture, it will light, it will get you the security lighting you need underneath the canopy and at the building face. Is there a redesign of this canopy that allows you to put a fixture in those locations without having to do any H fixtures on the parapet and have fewer fixtures that can meet your requirements? I mean, it seems like, let me just see if I can put it this way. I understand these requirements have come in over time, and there's the design of a building, and then there are requirements and regulations that sort of come into play. And the design of the building often, you know, has to get modified, or it doesn't get modified. We just put other stuff in locations in order to solve the immediate problem of the new regulation. But you don't necessarily end up with a good design for the building and a good design for the town. It's just additive rather than being better. And I understand the desire to keep the canopies. I think it's great to have canopies there. But it just seems like the canopies are a problem. And so we have to have these extra fixtures underneath. And the canopies are also a problem because the extra fixtures that are there will not have enough light throw. And so therefore we have to have higher, more brighter lights up above. I just wonder if somebody were to start from scratch and say, okay, what's the right design to solve this problem, given the context of the hamlet and all the things we've talked about, a more pleasant walking environment? What would be a solution rather than coming in and just adding things to meet the regulations?
I will obviously let Jason speak on that, but Jason, correct me if I'm wrong. There has to be a certain spread, right? And a foot candle that needs to remain within that certain radius. And that's the reason why the lights are at different levels.
That's correct.
Who? I'm sorry, who made that comment?
Tamika.
Okay. Yeah. I think everybody understands that. I mean, that doesn't change the comment.
I think what I'm trying to say is if we were to not have those canopies, we'd still have those lighting levels that we'd still need to meet, and would still have, you know, lights at different heights.
Well, why would you have height? I understand how you have lights, different heights. I'm guessing if you take those canopies away, you don't need the T fixtures. I mean, I just got to believe that.
Right.
Not that I'm saying take the canopies away. It's just, I just think the consequence of these sort of adding things in order to solve these problems is not resulting in a design which is going to be good, good for our Main Street. And the other thing, if the canopies have to stay and all these other things have to, and I'm not convinced, have to happen this way, do we have to have black canopies? Because if the problem is lighting, it seems to me that the black canopy would be the worst color to choose. That you'd find something that had, some luminescence to it of some kind.
I have a question for Sabrina. There appears to be, from the pictures, at least one street light, outside where all the windows are. Is it possible that the town could help by making that one particular fixture a little bit brighter, and thereby supplement what the owner is trying to do, what the bank is trying to do, to get to the throw that they need?
I think it is an option to ask that of the town board.
Okay.
I'm not sure. In Bob, you may have more information on the actual light fixture inside the lamp. I know those were costly. I don't know if we can replace them with brighter bulbs.
Right. I have no idea. Yeah.
I'd like to ask him that.
I think Bob Scioli might be able to answer that. Do you know?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Question was whether or not there appears to be at least one street lamp, sidewalk street lamp, public street lamp outside the bank there. And I'm wondering if there was a way that we could increase the brightness of that single lamp to help supplement what the bank needs to do, because it looks to be, located halfway between the depository and the corner. It might help with the so-called throw that they need to the curb. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if it's financially possible or whatever. But just as a thought, again, to reduce I'm bothered by these HV1s on the top of the building that just basically look almost like stadium lights that are lighting the street, as opposed to leaving the sidewalk.
I think that's a good idea. What I can do is I can send the specifications of the lighting that we use for Penn Globe to the engineer, if you like, Mr. Chairman. They can do an analysis and see what type of light they would need to increase the intensity, and maybe remove some of the lighting that they show. But of course, if that's going to be the case, they would be responsible to do the lighting transfer. Sure. And whatever they need. So I can do that if you'd like to proceed that way, Mr. Chairman.
And another alternative, if I may,
Sure.
It's been suggested maybe relocating the night depository. Is that possible to get it off the street?
Yes. On the side of the
Right, in that
absolutely,
in the parking
Sabrina.
lot. I mean, even in the dark portion of the parking lot, and then you put lights back there.
Yes,
Excellent.
absolutely. Excellent. I love that. Absolutely. Because twice I thought about it and I was like, I go to this bank all the time. I've never used that the depository there. I've always gone to the ATM inside that little, where you walk in and go into the steps, go into that little front entrance. So just moving that to the side where the parking lot is, or even behind, and then you can light it up as much as you want.
Yes. Thank you, Sabrina.
Yep, love it.
But it goes to Dennis. I'm going to say that. He chatted me. He's like, why doesn't anyone mention this?
I believe that this right here, Y11, I think that is the existing streetlight.
Yes, looks like it.
I think so. I'm just not sure. I mean, Jason, you tell me. I'm not sure if it, is
That's
close
correct.
enough to help that the depository.
It would potentially help us remove maybe that HV2 light that we're showing there, but again, the radius really does extend more towards the right as well. So maybe just along this intersection here, we'll be able to reduce the brightness that's compared to what's being shown right now, but throughout this sidewalk, essentially will have to be lit as well.
Well,
And in terms of moving that after our depository, I don't believe it's something the bank has looked at.
I don't
this
think
is-
many people use that, but I might be wrong.
Can you look at that? Can you talk to the bank about doing that?
I mean, we can talk to the bank. I'm just, again, we can't answer that, obviously. I mean, we can talk to them. I'm just not sure, for one, I'm not sure what's inside of the bank space and what actually
That's
needs
the
to
vault.
happen.
It's a vault at the back. So I think the best location you would have is the sidewalk. So it would become where right under HV1 on the sidewalk where you have Y11 and yeah, right there would be actually quite okay, because that would be inside, you know,
The counter.
accessible to your folks.
I think that, you know, it's just the consistency of the lighting on the street, and this is a busy intersection, and there may be glare. It's going to be lit up like the sky. If we can try and reduce the points of light on South Greeley, I think it would go a long way.
I mean, I think that what we can do is, you know, go back to Jason's team, go back and see if there's any spots where we can reduce the lighting. Add those notes like you wanted to make sure that, you know, we're not trimming, we're not pruning, we'll add that. We'll make a note that those existing lights in the rear to remain. And we'll see if there's any, you know, way. I think Jason made a recommendation, maybe we can lower some watts. Like, we'll see what we can do to try to the spillage, right? Because the spillage is really the concern here right now, as well as, like, you don't want the sidewalks to be totally, you know, lit up. So we can definitely go back and see if there's any way we can reduce this. As far as moving that night depository box, I'm really just not sure about that, because we're talking about, you know, we're adding lighting for security purposes, and I totally get that, moving that to the side of the building where you're not so concerned with lighting of the street, but we're talking, you know, we're taking a lighting project and we're turning it into a facade project and needing to open up that facade, redo the inside of the building, then infill that front facade, as well as then finish off that space of whatever they have on the inside of that. So I'm just not sure. I think I'd like for, you know, us to go back and see about reducing the lights in any way we can. We can also take those specs on Y11 to see if that can help with this corner over here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we've discussed a number of alternatives. So I hope you've taken notes on those, because I don't think there's necessarily one solution. And we'll leave it to your creativity. But the concern that we have right now is the spillage is more than we'd like to see, brighter than we'd like to see. And of course, you know, we don't have a budget, so we just sent all kinds of alternatives to you. But whatever you think you can come up with, you've heard a bunch of different alternatives. So I think we've given you some pretty good information for you to use. And then in the end, if you have to go to ZBA, we'd like to be in a position to make a recommendation to the ZBA that we are in favor of whatever plan you come up with, to hopefully help your efforts there.
Yep. No, I definitely agree with you. I think you all have given us great suggestions and something that we can go back and try to redesign. And I think that the ZBA would only be if we can't minimize that spillage. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I just like to be sure that my concerns are also understood, or the intensity of my concerns here is that I think you said that we're turning a lighting project into a facade project. Well, a lighting project already is a facade project. So, so I would say that it has been the attempt of the town, and we put a lot of money into this to fix up Greeley. And we've done a lot of streetscape improvements, and it's looking really, really great. And one of the things that is part of the ambition, I guess, or the vision would be that all the street fronts, shop fronts, end up doing their part to make it better. And I think that in this particular case, the bank would be delighted to take the opportunity to contribute to that, to make it better. And especially when you take if there's an opportunity to take a night depository, which is causing the requirement for all of this lighting, where otherwise it's not needed, and move it to a side of the building where it's not a problem, would be something that they would be happy to do. And especially since a bank depository, I'm guessing that the people who use that are the businesses around town who end up closing up their cash registers, who end up closing business after bank hours, and they come and make their deposits at night. And that's certainly a function that needs to be secure. But it's not so many people using this facility that requires us to light the whole front of this building all night long. I just think that that's not appropriate. So I am in favor of the bank looking very seriously at moving the bank depository. I think that's a great solution.
Good.
And I totally understand your concerns. I definitely do. And it's definitely something we're going to take to the bank. We're going to look at both. What can we do to reduce the lighting, as well as if we cannot reduce the lighting and it is going to be lit up too much, to your concerns about moving that.
Thank you.
So as a matter of procedure, was put on for a public hearing. I don't know, Mr. Chairman, if you want to continue the public hearing to a date certain in the future. I'm not sure how long it will take the applicant to come back to us with some alternatives. We have our next meeting is July 19th. If that's too soon, then we would be looking at a September date.
Correct. And I guess the other issue is, do we have any members of the public out there who wish to comment at this point?
If anybody wants to comment, they can raise their digital hand. Right now, no one has their hand raised.
Right. Okay. I think the best thing is to continue the public hearing until we meet again with updated information from the applicant. And, we'll see what they have and then reconsider it and renotice it. We don't have to renotice it, do we?
No, but you do need to set a date for the adjournment.
So
For the adjournment.
it has to be July 19th or the first meeting in September or the second meeting in September. Felicia, do you have those dates handy?
No, September is 13 and 20, I believe, Felicia.
You're on mute, Felicia.
Sorry, the 13th and the 28th.
So if you have a sense of the time that you need, it will help us hone in on the date to continue the application to.
Unfortunately, the 19th is going to be too close.
Okay.
Especially if we really want to evaluate our design here and have to go back to the bank with this depository relocation.
So then we have September 13th or 28th.
28th. The submission deadline for the 13th is August 22nd.
Okay.
I'll send that to you guys. So you have it.
What can happen too, if necessary, we can put you on for the September 13th. And if in fact you need to be bumped to the September 28th, we can open the public hearing and continue it.
Yeah, we would it's already been open, so we could, if you can't make that meeting, you would just ask for an adjournment and we would note it on the agenda. And then the public hearing would be continued on that next adjourned date.
Okay.
Okay. Can I ask you?
Sure.
Sorry. Thank you. Question regarding the exterior upgrades, like the canopy, the signage, and the painting. How is that being handled? Like, do we still proceed with that portion of the application? I think we have to also go to the architectural review board.
You do. When you receive approval for the lighting, and this application is kind of proceeding as one. When the planning board approves your application, you will be able to apply for a building permit. At the time that you apply for a building permit, you will be referred to the architectural review board.
Okay.
For signage.
Is there a way that we can separate this out so we can move forward with the signage, painting, and canopy while we work on the lighting?
I am not certain. Jen?
I think that's something we could talk about offline. I don't know that that's necessarily relevant to the planning board's review of the lighting. I think we can talk about that.
Okay, so I'll reach out to
Planning
Felicia then.
department.
Okay.
I'll reach out to Felicia and see if because we do have to keep going with more steps for that too. So if we can do that while we take the time to, review everything. And also if you can get those specs for that pole to us as well, this way we can take a look at everything.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Should we earmark you for the 13th of September or 28th?
I think the 13th.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, wonderful.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
We'll
Thank
see
you
then.
all.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, so Bob, you'll just send them the spec for Pen Globe?
Is that what you'd like me to do, guys?
Yes, please.
That's one of the
Will do.
alternatives. I think we should, yeah.
I will do. Thank you.
And Felicia, if you can send them the submission deadlines again?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, we move now to our next matter. This is an informal appearance before the board. This is Random Farms, the Homeowners Association 21. Oh, yep.
Did you decide that you wanted to open the 208 Sawmill River Road Chestnut and continue it?
Do we have to? We're not really looking at it.
Notice it's a public hearing. Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, so it's been noticed for tonight as a public hearing. It has been adjourned to July 19th. However, if we don't open it and then adjourn it to July 19th tonight, everything's going to have to be renoticed for the 19th. So my recommendation would be to make a motion to open the public hearing on the matter of 208 Sawmill River Road, Chestnut Market, and then adjourn it to July 19th.
Okay, fine. Fine with me. So is there a motion to open the public hearing for the 208 Sawmill River Road, Chestnut Market application?
Motioned.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 None opposed, so motion carries. And then what we'll do then is we'll just postpone it, or what did you say, defer?
Yeah, that'll be, then you'll adjourn that to your July 19th meeting, your next meeting. My understanding is the applicant is working on some revisions to the application to comply with the Millwood design guidelines.
Okay, very good. Wasn't aware of that. I thought it was just off the agenda. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they'll be adjourned to July 19.
Correct. Thank you. So the next item is the informal appearance before the board. This is the Random Farms Homeowners Association, 21 Random Farms Drive. This is the application for a site development plan application, wetland permit, tree permit, stormwater erosion and control approvals for replacement of the wastewater treatment plant. So this is, I guess, as everyone is probably aware, an emergency type of situation. I think the thing that the applicant is most eager for us to do is to confirm that this is a type 2 application and then to move forward from there. So we'll turn it over to the applicant.
Good evening. I hope everybody can hear me.
Yep, we can.
Okay. I'm Mike Primer. I'm with Delaware Engineering. We've been retained by New York City to work on the construction of the new wastewater plant. I'm joined here by my colleague, Rose Musher. She's an engineer with Delaware. The Random Farms wastewater plant is a plant it's permitted for 41,500 gallons. It's had operational issues since early 2000s. The physical condition of this plant is quite deteriorated, and it fails. The output from the existing wastewater plant is supposed to go into a leach field. The leach field has a confining layer underneath it, which causes the water that's supposed to leach down to come out through the side and empty into a tributary of the Cornell Brook, which then feeds into the Croton Reservoir. This has been an issue for New York City, DOH. And so after many false starts, we're hoping that this time around, we can finally build a new plant for them and put this matter to bed. So I thank the board for having us on tonight. And yeah, other questions?
Okay, Sabrina, did you have any thoughts, comments on this? Other than letting us know that this is a matter of rather urgent importance. Has been only for 20 some odd years, but you know,
we're
we
finally
get to
near
urgent things
the final threshold here.
Yes.
So there's really no issues in regards to, you know, it's zoning code compliant. You know, for the original Random Farm subdivision did not include development coverage. It would preceded our coverage requirements. This is not a single family home. It's a wastewater treatment plant, so it doesn't have those restrictions. It is, my interpretation is that it is a type 2 action. Random Farms Council did a separate memo regarding its type 2 status. I don't know, Jen, if you have a difference of opinion with that.
No, I agree.
Yeah, so from a planning perspective, this is pretty compliant. It is a type 2 in my view because it's a repair of infrastructure. It is a much needed repair. The one thing, Mike, that I would love to hear more about, particularly, and not necessarily substance of the planning board review, but this plant was put in 20-something years ago, or not even 40-something years ago, and we've been trying to replace it for 20-something years. At least since the beginning of my career in Westchester County. What measures are being taken to ensure that it is taken care of this time? That it doesn't fall into disrepair, that the homeowners association can maintain it, that we don't run into soil issues. Maybe you can speak to that and kind of educate the board a little bit about that.
Good question. So being this time around, it's going to be a funded New York City plant. So they have a vested interest. In other plants that we have done with New York City, they set up an O&M agreement, and they and the owners split the cost of that operations and maintenance. New York City is, they routinely inspect these plants for upkeep and for operation.
Okay.
So that's the guarantee, at least as far as I can go, that they will maintain it and not let it go.
Right, and I do want the board to know that this project had to receive a variance from the 1996 New York City's Memorandum of Agreement to protect New York City's drinking water supply, because it is within the 60-day travel time. It is a direct discharge to the reservoir. That is a very onerous process for an applicant to go through to achieve that variance. So this project has been under heightened scrutiny by New York City DEP engineers, and I think it's a huge achievement to obtain that variance, Mike, and you and your team deserve a whole host of credit for getting through that process.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope we can get this built. I guess, are there other questions as far as the process goes? Anything?
I'm finished, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if you want to move
Okay.
on to Bob.
Good. I think Dennis, you had some comments. I think Bob had some comments as well.
Yes.
So Dennis, why don't you go first?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I tried. I mean, I'm sure, I don't know if anybody's read my memos to this point.
I did.
But mine, okay. No, but even from my past memos, this to me, to Sabrina's point, I think I tried to craft it more in that road to yes format. because understanding the purpose and need, and then, you know, there are some provisions in our wetlands code for such projects where, you know, it's sort of meant to help, you know, facilitate, you know, wastewater projects. So, but even having said that, in reviewing the plan, and I kind of started laying that out, you know, with the first section on wetlands, is that, you know, there does seem to be a significant portion of the project that's either being moved out of the buffer, or there's going to be, you know, sort of a transformation of landform that's going to be, you know, more amenable and beneficial to being in the wetlands buffer, either by being, you know, planted or impervious being changed to engineered permeable pavers. And I did note, obviously, because you need to account for now a surface outfall, there is a small component that's going to end up in wetlands proper, and that, you know, is about the 20 square feet of the riprap diffuser terminus, and that would be going into Cornell Brook. Pretty much following that, it's, you know, me pulling out, you know, areas of our wetlands code whereby, you know, there is authority to, for example, not require a permit if it's a public health activity pursuant to Westchester County Department of Health and New York State Department of Health, and then to, you know, further advance that, you know, it's been demonstrated, obviously, you know, due to location and prior construction, you know, going through the alternatives analysis properly to, you know, coming up with the preferred alternative. With respect to wetlands, I think the only item that I just added, which I didn't think would be a big deal for a wastewater treatment plant, is, you know, I don't anticipate you guys needing to use fertilizers or pesticides, you know, and maintaining the turf cover like, you know, people do at a residential property. So that was just one item I didn't see that I think, you know, could be added somewhere in the drawing, just as a note to sort of help with the wetland perspective. And then as far as the trees, I definitely differentiated between the 7 native maples that are in the buffer and the 4 likely planted calorie pears. You know, I don't know, maybe around either when the plant was built or shortly after. They definitely remind me of just landscape, both species and how they were planted. And those calorie pears, I think I had mentioned in a prior application, you know, they could still be legally purchased and planted in New York. They're not on the prohibited list, but they, you know, they really, you know, have risen to, you know, the definition of an invasive landscape tree. And you could see some of these trees are starting to spread and propagate. It just so happens in the area where they're looking to put the new wastewater treatment plant. But I just pointed those out because there is a provision, obviously, in 121.6J where non-native invasive species don't necessarily would require replacement. And then for the remaining sugar maples, which are of smaller diameter, because of the 25% requirement, since they're all under the 18-inch size, they're only required to come up with 5 replacement trees. And in looking at the plan and the plant and, you know, how that western face, I guess, sort of faces outward to some of the nearby homeowners, I can understand why they're looking to row plant 9 arborvitae to serve as the green screen. So in just looking at, you know, numerics, they exceed, you know, potentially the replacement trees if the planning board is to agree. And I understand the purpose and need for planting those species in that location. I only add under the general comments, and it's interesting because in those comments I did see some cautionary notes about if you do use poly or if you do use certain materials. So, I mean, I try to implement, and, you know, when it comes to wetland permitting, not to use these materials if we can in wetland buffers. You know, in time, they do become a little unsightly when all that green, you know, and just starting to be exposed. But more so, I think it's helpful to, you know, just ecologically, it makes more sense just to use biodegradable materials and, you know, not worry about any of the poly netting or anything that's non-biodegradable. So that would be just another comment I would have to, you know, as I said with the drawings, delete, you know, the references to any of those materials.
What are the size of the arborvitae that you are proposing to put here?
I believe we were looking to do 6-foot plantings to start.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and they would hide the plant and the security fence.
What's the structure of the plant? What is it? Just a metal prefab type of building? What color is it?
We had looked at metal prefab. Right now, what we're seeing is the availability of metal prefab is a year out. So we're proposing to go with CMU with a siding on it. And right now I'm proposing a kind of a barn red color, but that has to be agreed upon with the homeowners association. And I'm definitely not a designer, so for that.
Okay. Seems a barn red would stand out quite
Yeah, camouflage had been suggested by one of the residents, so I don't know. We'll see where that goes.
okay. And what kind of a siding would you put on?
It would be a metal type siding over insulation, like a board insulation.
Okay.
But,
Would it
yeah.
replicate the conventional siding that you see on homes? I mean, to look like that, or
It'll look like a vertical, almost like a board and batting. And so,
okay. Well, I'm sure we'll hear from homeowners on that in terms of their preferences. Thank you. Good. Bob, you had some comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Basically, I got 3 stormwater comments. It looks a lot worse than what it actually is. I just wanted to memorialize it because of the use of the NDTT 24 turf track, which is like an engineered grass paver, which is actually grass on the surface. They reduced quite a bit of the impervious material. And believe it or not, the net new impervious is only 717 square feet, which is below 1,000 square feet. So therefore, it does not need a SWIP under Chapter 108A. The only thing it really needs is a SWIP for erosion and sedimentation control because it's in the East of Hudson watershed, and it's at 0.821 acres, but less than an acre. So it does not need any post-stormwater infiltration characteristics at all. Also, in a letter dated June 27th, 2022, DEP signed off on it as well, stating it does not need a stormwater permit. Those are the stormwater questions or comments I had. Then I have a few general comments. Based on the site drawing, the applicant for the steep slopes disturbance, it's a de minimis amount. It's about 870 square feet, 15 to 25. Therefore, steep slopes permit is not required. GC2, there's going to be quite a bit of construction equipment coming in and out of that driveway, which does go adjacent to 2 existing residences. A little bit concerned about the traffic safety along Random Farms Drive, which is a public road. Recommended that they put some construction signs out there to warn the general public. And because of that, they would need to get a street opening permit from DPW to put those signs along Random Farms Drive for the safety of the general public along that roadway. GC4, they have to provide an engineer's cost estimate based on 6440H1 and Excel format for review. This is basically a cost estimate for the site inspection fee in the amount of 3% for the town's time going out there during inspection, just for the site improvements. Obviously, a Newcastle building permit would be required as well for this project. And those are my comments, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good, Bob. Any questions or comments from board members on this application?
Yeah, I have a few questions that I don't expect answers on, but some might be there. Is there going to be an emergency generator as part of this project?
Yes, sir. That's a good question. That is required by New York City.
Excellent.
On any of their wastewater plants. So,
second is, I assume there's going to be some staffing, at least for part of the day or 24 hours, or what? Or is it all going to be remote?
So a very good question. There'll be a full SCADA system, but they'll be on premises. I'm thinking 4 hours a day right
Okay.
now.
All right, and the last one is, I noticed that there'll be filters prior to letting the treated wastewater enter the environment. And I'm guessing that they will be polyamide filters. And one question that has come up lately is that instead of using acids or bases to clean the filters, I would think that peroxide is considered to be somewhat more, let's say, so much less destructive to the filters, which I understand will be probably cleaned once every 6 months, which might work, but sometimes it's going to be more frequent. Peroxide instead of acid and bases. It's something for them to think about. I'm not ordering it. I'm just saying it should be considered.
Yeah, I will bring that up with the, we have a preferred manufacturer, and I'll bring that up with him and report back. Yeah, typically, you're right. It is sodium hypochlorite and then citric acid.
Okay. That'd be good. Okay. One last little thing is that there was a box that was you could check yes or no. Are you near a walking path or a bicycle path or something like that? And I don't understand how near is defined, because certainly across the highway there is a former railroad pathway that is used for biking and walking. So definition of near, don't know. And I think it might be far enough away that it would not cause any problems. But I don't know. So I wouldn't want you guys to get in trouble with that. I'm done.
Good, thank you, Dick. I had a follow-up question on the emergency generator.
Yes.
Based on the plan, it looks like it'll be now on I think it's the eastern side of the building, and as opposed to where it used to be on the old building. I think it's going to therefore be substantially closer to residences and not buffered by the building itself, the structure itself. So what can we propose for noise mitigation for the generator when it does its routine testing runs, as well as when it runs? Those things tend to be rather loud, and again, it's substantially closer to a couple of residences. So if you could let us know what those details might be.
That's a good point, because it's going to be a large machine.
Oh, yeah.
Good question, Mr. Chairman. Anymore, when we install generators, they're in fully enclosed sound enclosures. And the decibel rating, I'll double check on that, but it's essentially down near where loud conversation is. So it's not, I know what you're talking about. The old generators, you thought a train was coming through, but
right.
They're hardly noticeable.
Okay. Will this be a gas one, a propane one, or diesel?
Right now, I'm looking at it being diesel.
Okay, those are pretty tough to keep those quiet. So I'll be interested to see what those decibels are. And if you could give us some readings of what those decibel readings might be, proximate to the residences, I'm sure those folks would be interested in knowing what that impact might be. Also, I noticed that during the course of the work, I think you have 5 trailers scheduled to be at the job site at any given time, or are they being sequenced in at various times, or will they be there the entire time?
Our drafts person put those in, whether we need them all or not. But I'm assuming we'll have one for the general contractor. And if they can share that with the electrical, and then we can use one or two for storage. And perhaps for the engineer.
Okay. Where will the materials be staged? And by the way, what's the sequence? Will you be building the new one? It seems to be in part on the old slab. What's the construction sequence? Do you demobilize and take down the other structure first? And if you do, what's going to happen to the effluent? Or do you keep that up and put the new one up and then take the old one down? What goes on with the sequence?
Very good. So we will maintain the existing plant whilst we build the new plant. And then after startup and successful testing, then we'll decommission the existing plant, demolition it. And we actually want to use part of one of the western walls of the existing as a wall to create a loading dock, if you will. Because right now there's no safe way for them to unload chemicals, and we'll use that wall. We'll build a sidewalk against it to the existing plant, the new plant.
Assuming no problems with supplies, which is quite the assumption. Any idea what the construction timeframe might be? In the best of all worlds.
We've talked about this a number of times. It keeps moving a bit, but we're expecting spring of 2023
to be finished.
That will start. It will break ground and hit it hard.
Oh, that's when you'll break ground. Okay, I thought I saw something about wrong project. That was another project I saw. Okay, sorry. Okay.
I wish it was sooner, but no.
Understand. Yes, I think we all do. Okay. The last comment I had or question I had was, it seems to me that you're going to have some sort of pumping or servicing schedule, I wonder if that. I wonder what that schedule is. I wonder how public that schedule should be. I wonder how the homeowners can contact DEP or whoever might be responsible for the maintenance if and when they sense a problem. Their sense of a problem may be different than the DEP's problem, sensories. So I wonder what that schedule will be, if that might be something that would be available to the town. So if residents want to know what's going on, when's the next time it's going to be pumped, why wasn't it pumped, or whatever, how will that work?
Okay. So right now, I believe they take out 6 to 7 truckloads a month of sludge. They use either 3,500 gallon trucks, or sometimes they use tractor trailers, which I haven't been there for that, but so they run it with a contract operator, and that should be something that we can, after we get up and started running, we should be able to kind of dial in on a schedule and let people know. There will be phone numbers for DEP. That is part of we have to supply phone numbers for DEP, local fire, local police. So.
Great. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Any questions, thoughts?
Just on the roads, is the sludge trucks will have a certain weight, and I hope the weight that they have is not going to ruin any of the driveway or anything like that, because if you have heavy trucks going, it sounds like one a day almost, you're going back and forth, the road or the driveway, whichever you want to call it, tends to get damaged unless it's really carefully built, particularly if you have, spongy soil underneath.
Okay. The road that's there, I don't believe there's been a whole lot of maintenance of that road. It is showing deterioration, and that's probably over a period of 20 to 30 years. We've had this discussion with DEP that prior to start of construction, we will have the general contractor make a photo record of the conditions of the road. And then we fully expect at the end of construction that the road will be brought up to a good serviceable road.
Good.
Okay, great. Anyone else?
Yeah, I have mine's primarily aesthetic. I've noticed we were talking about landscaping earlier and the arborvitae, a couple of things. What variety, do you know what variety of arborvitae? You said they're gonna go in at around 6 feet to hide the fence. What variety would they be? What's the growth profile of what you're planning to put in?
I don't know that offhand, but I can look it up.
That'd be good to hear about. Secondly, and this is for the consideration of the homeowners, because I agree that they ought to be the ones to work with you on the color of the building, and along, I guess, with the architecture review board, the architecture of the building, facade, so on and so forth. But one suggestion is that, dark green, is always a good choice, because it tends to, especially if you have evergreens around, it tends to sort of more disappear, which I think would be the objective here.
Yes.
The other thing, in the interest of maybe having the building disappear as much as possible, you have these 9 green arborvitae. There's the height of the building to concern. Well, I don't know whether there's going to be green giants you're going to be putting in, which would probably be, terrific, because they also tend to be more deer resistant. And they have a much wider spread than many of the other varieties. So I think that would be something to look at.
Okay.
The other thing is, Random Farms is one of our more, dare I say, bucolic neighborhoods. And in that light, and we have many of them, I'm not saying mine is as well, the one I live in. In that light, I think that we would be doing the right thing. You would be doing the right thing. The neighborhood would be doing the right thing to try and take that landscaping you're put in and not design it as a hedge. There's a downslope there. It's a gradual downslope. It's really practically almost flat, it looks like, but there's quite a bit of, it looks like, is that a fill slope you're putting in, and it will be cleared in the process of doing the construction. I would treat that, if you can, as a more like a natural sort of like meadow environment. If there's a way to put more trees in, I mean, instead of 9, like 20, and maybe a variety of heights, and stagger them so that they look like they're a natural sort of a landscape. They grew there and were always there. I think that would be more in character with the neighborhood, and more that something that really, we ought to be doing anyway. I think that trees that are in groupings are better for the environment than trees are in rows. I think if they're grouped properly, Dennis might correct me on this, but I think that they probably do better because they shield each other from the wind. And so there are a lot of reasons to think about the trees and the environment that we're creating with those as a shield, not only as a great green environment, but also as a shield for the building. So I would suggest that you look at that, and so that when the neighborhood, when the facility's done, and 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and things are grown in, you don't even know what's back there, right? it's like it's not there, it never was there, and it's not there now. You really don't even know it's there because you're looking at essentially the edge of a forest. And I think that would be the objective to strive for.
Okay.
I think
Point well taken.
Yeah. I think those are very good points. I concur in those thoughts.
And that's all for me, Bob.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, very good. What I would love to be able to do is, we've made just a few comments here. I'm just wondering if, Mike, you can get something back in terms of landscape and something, we asked about the generator, the sound, the schedule, whatever that might be in the future, just how this will be transparent to the homeowners association. I guess the administrative question I'll ask Sabrina and Jennifer is, do we have to go to a public hearing on this? Yes. So, is it possible to expedite this so that we even have sufficient time to notice it for July 19th so that we're not the ones holding up the project?
Do we have enough time?
We can notice it on Monday, but we would need a resubmission very soon.
Well, the resubmission, I think, would be fairly straightforward. I mean, basically, all the plans that we have, which are, copious, those I don't think have to be amended. It's just really a couple of tweaks and maybe some explanations. What I'd love to be able to do is to get you to a public hearing, get you through, finished with us, if we can, before we break, and have you finished on July 19th, then move on to your next target and go from there. This is an extraordinarily important project. So I to whatever we can do to expedite it, I think makes good sense. I mean, do we anticipate that Sabrina, Bob, and Dennis, that we'll have much in the way of substantive review? Just a couple of comments, couple of explanations. So I'm not anticipating that you would do a whole new resubmission of all the plans and documents and drawings again. Just a couple of those tweaks. I mean, Tom's comment on plantings, something on the generator, Dick's comments in terms of some of the treatments. If you can get some of those answers, I think that's all we have. So I'd love to be able to try to get you done and finished by the 19th.
That would require a draft resolution as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I think overall it sounds like a good project. But it has to be done.
The difficulty being, and Mike, I'm going to turn to you. Is it possible for you to get those tweaks that the board has asked for by the end of this week?
Yeah, I really don't think there's anything major.
Right, but unfortunately, if we're to write a draft resolution and to put in a public notice, we need to cite the right documents.
Right.
To make it qualify as a public hearing. So we would need them by close of business on Friday, so Felicia could put the notice in by noon on Monday with the right references. And if you think you can do that, then we're good to go, and we'll draft up a resolution for the board to discuss on the 19th.
I think we can do it.
Okay. So why don't we notice then the schedule a public hearing then for July 19th, and notice it accordingly. And Mike, if you get all that information into us, we'll give it our best shot to get you finished and done before our break.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Great.
Lightning speed.
Lightning speed here.
25 years and lightning speed.
That's right. Let's see, 25 years or bust.
Well, kind of close, right?
Yes, and of course, again, the notice will go out, and we may have comments from residents. We should, I hope we do. And we'll take those and see what constructive comments we have, and get this thing done for you. And for everyone, for the community. So terrific. All right, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Okay, we move now to our next item. This is an amendment of a resolution of approval. This is for Sing 15 Heathcote This is a request for an amendment to the application for a subdivision approval, lot line amendment / merger, site development plan approval, wetland permit, tree removal permit, stormwater pollution prevention plan approval that we adopted back on November 18, 2020. The applicant is requesting a change in the order and asking us to defer the requirement to post a performance bond until such time as a building permit is sought. So we normally have it before that time, before the plot's actually signed. So anyway, we'll take it, Jerry, if you have a couple of questions or comments, you can tell us, summarize better than I have what you're trying to do, and then we'll get comments from Sabrina, Bob, Jennifer, and Dennis.
Good evening, everyone. Jerry Barrett, site planner for the project. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so as you know, this project to develop a new house, it had to start because, you know, there's a lot here and there's a lot here, and they had to be merged to become one lot. And that was the subject of the subdivision / lot merger. So where we are now, everything has been done with the plan. The septic system is all designed, ready to go. Of course, the health department cannot sign off until it's a single lot. Dr. Singh would like to, he's going to postpone the construction on the house. He's ran into some difficulties. His house on Newstat Lane in the past year caught on fire. The house is being rebuilt. The family had to move into a hotel and temporary places to live. Things are flux. He's had some COVID issues over there. That coupled with, you know, it's the cost of construction materials are way up. Contractors are hard to find, and he's just kind of overwhelmed. And what he'd like to do is put this off for 18 months, maybe 2 years before he gets going on this. We researched the surety bond to bond the stormwater management aspect of the project, and that was going to come out to several thousand, about $8,000 or $9,000 a year. You pay for that every year while you're under construction. It just didn't seem practical or reasonable to put that in place for the 2-year period. It seemed that it would make more sense if we could, when he gets ready to go for the building permit, then that bond can be issued, so it's active while construction is going on. Currently, the project's before the ARB. There's been some significant changes to the house based on the visual, the structure of the house, the footprints, nothing's changed, but they're working on the elevation of the house, and the ERB members had a bunch of constructive criticisms. Dr. Singh has hired a local architect who's working on that now, and they're coming to a revised house design that I think will be probably more characteristic of the neighborhood, and that's going well. So what we'd like to do is get the plat map signed, and to get the plat map signed so the septic system can be approved, we're requesting that we move condition 11 from a condition of the signing of the plat map to a condition of the issuance of the building permit.
Okay. Bob, we talked about this. I think you had some comments on it. Any issues on this as far as you're concerned?
I have no objection to it at all. You know, I've been dealing with Mr. Singh for the past, I don't know, 6-7 months, and he is having difficulty getting that, and I can understand the reason behind it. So for those reasons, I have no objection to what he's trying to do in this type of new strategy.
Okay. Sabrina, Jennifer, are we okay with this? No problems? I think you're muted.
Yes. Yeah, because the improvements to be guaranteed here are not public improvements, then there's no restriction in the New York State town law to move the performance guarantee as the applicant is requesting.
Okay.
I have
Great.
no issue.
Okay. So anyone have any questions? If not, is there a motion?
I have a question.
Sure.
This seems that if we do this, it's a bit a small, I think, change in the way we do things, and I wouldn't want this to just go on and on and on and on without the privilege, shall we say, of talking about it several years down the road if we're still in the same condition, to see how much we want to continue doing this. So it's just, that's my only comment.
That's a good comment. I think it's a good question, good comment, because, we need to be concerned with setting precedent. It seems to me that it would be a good idea to make some sort of distinctions with regard to this property in this particular application. I think we've heard that from Jerry. We've heard it confirmed with Bob. There have been, the perfect storm of all kinds of issues for this family. Very unfortunate. So perhaps those are the kinds of things that we would consider, almost like a court of equity, and in terms of saying, yeah, we're just going to provide you with this kind of relief because we just think it's the right thing to do in this particular matter. Jen, can you speak to that in terms of, is there any danger in this and not being a little bit more clear cut? Because to Dick's point, is this what we're going to see from now on, from other applicants once we do one of these?
No, I think, both the applicant and you and Bob and everyone, really laid out the circumstances here well. I think, everyone's circumstances are a little bit different. And I think you described it perfectly, that this is sort of the perfect storm. And I think that, this conversation, which will be of record in your minutes, is another example of the fact that this is not something that the planning board, has a practice of doing, changing conditions around in their resolution. That this is something that the board will only consider in the most, exigent of circumstances and extreme circumstances. And the applicant really has that burden to demonstrate that they have a particular need, a unique need for adjusting the conditions. And here it's not, the condition isn't being waived. It's being relocated to a different trigger point.
Yep.
So can I fear I'm a little bit confused on this one. Can I just get some clarification, Jen, if you would please, or Sabrina,
Yep.
or anybody, please, or Bob Cioli, the requirement for the bond would normally come into effect at what point in the application and approval process?
So
You
right
can
now
answer
you
that,
have it. Yeah, sure. So right now you have it in your resolution for this project. It was approved so that the performance guarantee was required to be submitted at the time the subdivision plat was to be signed by the chair and then filed in the Westchester County Clerk's office. So before the chairman signs the plat, the performance guarantee was to be submitted. I think it was probably drafted that way because there's a requirement in the New York State town law that for any public improvements that are that a performance guarantee must be submitted prior to the filing of a subdivision plat in the Westchester County Clerk's office. Here, the improvements are not public improvements, is my understanding. So we have the flexibility to relocate this particular performance guarantee requirement from prior to the signing of the subdivision plat to prior to the issuance of the building permit.
Got it.
We would not have this flexibility if the improvement to be bonded was the installation or the extension of a water main or the building of a road, a public road. We would not have this flexibility.
Got it. So here's my question. If under these circumstances where there is no improvement on public property or public infrastructure, whatever that category might be further defined, if it really only pertains to the activity of the private developer, landowner, who is the person who is submitting the application, and the threat is probably the wrong word, but the potential for exposure of the town in the development of private property is protected, right, by the performance bond. Why would we have the performance bond in effect before any actual construction starts that would be the source of the damage?
Well, I think that's the point. That there's really no need to have it. In this instance, there's no need to have that performance guarantee in place before the applicant actually is ready to start with construction.
So Jennifer, I understand it's the point. My point is, why does our law, therefore, why do we have a law that does it that way?
It's not you, it's the New York State town law. It's the New York State town law with respect to approval of subdivisions, because say you have a 50 lot subdivision, residential subdivision, that gets filed in the county clerk's office. The New York State legislature has said that before that gets filed, the developer has to post a bond, has to post some sort of guarantee that the public improvements for each that are required for each of those lots, for the streets, the utility infrastructure, et cetera, that there's a performance guarantee in place. So a developer can't go in, start constructing half of the subdivision and then leave portions of the homeowners out to dry.
Okay.
So it's not your requirement, it's the New York State legislature's requirement, not the town of Newcastle.
Right, but that's for a subdivision that has embedded in it public improvements.
Exactly, yep,
Right,
which
so
is not what we have here. We have a subdivision
and
lot
again,
merger, which is governed by subdivision regulations, but a different animal.
So okay, I'm going around and around on this. I guess I just still don't understand if it doesn't qualify as subdivision under the state law, and maybe this one somehow falls in the cracks, but are there other applications that we get that clearly don't fall under that we require performance bonds on?
Yes, any subdivision that you have public improvements on, we require a performance guarantee before the plat is signed. But with you waving your hands up in the air, I imagine that that's not the answer that you were looking
I'm sorry, but I'm talking about, you're citing state law, right? Do we have in our town code or in what the planning board does ever require performance bonds of individual applicants, just a site plan application? And we are concerned about a performance bond for, all the appropriate reasons. Does that performance bond have to be initiated at the time of plat approval, or can it wait until building permit or the beginning of construction? That's what I'm asking.
Right. If there are no public, if there's no public improvements involved, then it can wait until building permit stage.
Okay, so we don't have the requirement. So it's our discretion.
Correct.
Thank you.
But do we customarily require, I think Tom's point is, why do we ask for it at the site plan level if it's private and there's no public requirement for?
Can I chime in here,
Sure.
Chairman?
Yep.
Can I chime in here for a second? If you read chapter 108A, there's provisions in there that says you require performance bonds and maintenance guarantees for stormwater.
Right.
Now, even on a subdivision, all the stormwater improvements are always predominantly privately maintained. However, there's provisions in the code that says we need it, because in this particular case, they're very complicated types of stormwater improvements because of the extent and the size of the house. I recommended from the get-go that would be treated as a subdivision of bigger magnitude or commercial development. That's how we got into this quagmire here.
I see.
That's the reason we have it, though. There is specific code sections under stormwater that does require performance bonds for stormwater. And keep in mind, all the stormwater will always be on private property, and all the stormwater, even if it's in a subdivision, in a commercial development, will always be privately maintained as well. However, we do get performance bonds for those nonetheless.
Okay, thank you, Bob. So I'm sorry, that's the crux of my question. So if you have an applicant who has gone through the process, site plan approval, et cetera, and everything is approved, but he, for whatever reason, construction gets delayed, right? Does his performance bond under our town regulations, does that start at the point of site plan approval, or does it start at building permit issuance?
I've seen some where it's not the gents point where it's by law based on a subdivision with, a roadway and public infrastructure, sanitary sewers and all that. if it's just basically just on private property, we've had some resolutions that do have it prior to the BP.
Yeah. It's governed by what you have in your resolution. It's not governed by code as far as the timing of it for site plans with stormwater, as
Okay.
distinct from the subdivision context,
Right.
where
Thank
it's
you.
governed by New York State law.
Yeah, thank you. Timing was what I was concerned about, because why should somebody have to pay a penalty supporting a bond when they're not actually doing any construction for whatever reason? And this particular special case just brings that up as a consideration. Just for future reference, that's all. Thank you.
Yep, great. Okay. Any other questions on this this request? If not, we have an amendment to the resolution that's been prepared for us. I had one proposed change, and that was in line 59. I think instead of the word substantial, it should be substantive impact, and then I would insert or results in any changes on any of the plans or approvals. Again, so it's completely neutral. This is just a timing change, just to reiterate that there are no changes in the plan itself. With that change, is there a motion to adopt the proposed amendment?
I'll move.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay. Any opposed?
Yeah.
No, motion's carried. So the amendment's been approved. So good luck, Dr. Singh. Hope things improve.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
Very much.
Okay, we go now to a local law referral. This is to amend Chapter 60, Section 210, Section 410, and Section D of the Code of the Town of Newcastle concerning sign regulations. Is there an executive summary why we're doing this, or what the thrust of this was?
Yeah, it's my understanding, based on conversations with Ed Phillips of my office, that the amendment does basically two things. It allows signs, temporary signs, to be located in the town right away, where currently they're prohibited. And then number two, it eliminates some of the distinctions made between signs that are currently in the town code that have stood on kind of questionable legal footing ever since the U.S. Supreme Court case Reed v. Town of Gilbert back in 2015. So two purposes: one, to allow temporary signs in the town right of way under certain circumstances, and two, to bring the code more in compliance with the 2015 Reed case from the U.S. Supreme Court.
Okay. Now, the location within the town right of way is up to 5 feet of the roadbed, as I understand it, as proposed.
A 5-foot setback, right? That's my understanding.
Right.
So
It used to be more.
I thought it used to be 10 feet. Well, last time we talked about it, I think we talked about it was 10 feet. My concern on 5 feet, of course, is the usual in terms of, I know there's language in here that it can't block visuals, but it's almost impossible not to block visuals. I mean, you can just imagine, the winter months, once we have plowing, the signs are going to be annihilated within 5 feet of the roadbed on major roads.
Jennifer, could you help me out here? The operative word here is sign. What qualifies as a sign that can be located in the public right of way under this?
Well, let's see. I'm looking at the
I've read
local law here. So there's a definition of temporary signs in the proposed local law, which are those intended to be displayed for a limited duration in connection with a particular non-commercial event or activity, including but not limited to signs displayed during campaigns, drives, or events of civic, political, philanthropic, not-for-profit, charitable, educational, or religious institutions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does that include, what we customarily see all over the place, construction signs from contractors or real estate signs for homes that are being sold, which are clearly not for a nonprofit?
Just non-commercial.
Yeah, those are commercial.
Right. So they would not be allowed.
That's what I presume based on the definition. So I was very confused when I was going through this.
I was confused about the residential sign language. It just kept on turning me upside down, trying to parse through all the phrases. Other than that, I think I understand it. Seems fine with me.
Are we okay with this, the sense of 5 feet?
Well, I don't understand it. Why all of a sudden is it 5 feet? Are there conditions in town that just 10 feet doesn't work, or I don't understand the 5 foot.
Yeah, that's why I said from the get-go, I don't understand the thrust behind it. I certainly now understand the constitutional issue from the case law. I got it, great. But the other aspect, I'm not quite sure I'm following.
Well, we were essentially sent the text without really a presentation. Not we need a formal presentation, but an explanation of the reasons why this is being considered. I mean, I can't find a reason to object to it. It doesn't seem necessary to me, but I'm not sure that I'm not sure I would agree that it's an onerous thing. I just don't. I just don't know enough to know.
Yep. He's not here tonight, but I think the appropriate quote is from Eldad, where he normally says, "I don't hate it." But he's not quite sure why.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yes.
You won't hear me say that very often.
All right, is there a referral memo that you'd like us to send?
Well, Sabrina, do you have a fix on it in terms of I take that look, probably not, but in terms of what other than the constitutional issue, what the problem was that we're trying to solve here?
I think that they wanted the signs the temporary signs closer to the roadway.
For readability?
Yeah, but why?
For readability or for what?
Readability for trying to put new definition on our new guidelines in place so we knew whether or not signs were in violation or not. During every political season, our guys are out there picking up signs out of the roadway is a full-time job, and this would lessen that.
Have we heard back the DPW weigh in on this, or the police department weigh in on it?
It's the building inspector, and he weighed in on this, yes. He and Bob worked very diligently. I don't know, Bob, if you want to say anything. Cioli?
Yes, Tom and I met with Ed Phillips, and we discussed it, and Tom and I didn't have any objection to it being reduced down to 5 feet.
Okay.
My feeling is that, I mean, I know that we're responsible for signs, but it seems to me this is something that really clearly falls within the purview of the town board. And I don't really see it as being a planning board issue myself.
No, it's just referral, I think.
It is a referral. They're required by code to refer it to your board for comment.
No, I know it's a referral. I'm just saying that it's not something that is really something that we need to comment on. We will comment on it, but I just don't think that it's something that we need to have an opinion on. That's all. I'm good with it. Doesn't matter to me.
We can send back a positive recommendation that there's no concerns with the changes in the proposed sign law.
Or we don't hate it.
Or no objection, no objection. We're neutral.
Yeah, no objection letter, right? As Jen said.
I object, so they no object.
But I guess, yeah, I guess you leave it to the town board to see if 5 feet creates problems and residents object and think it's just clutter at various times. I have no idea. I know the provisions are in there that you can't block sight lines, so that's why I was asking about DPW and what they thought. So.
Yeah. Well, I think about this in a political season when everybody has signs out. Is 20 square feet enough? I mean, I agree that 5 foot, that's good. I agree that the sign shouldn't be more than 3 foot high. But if you put out, how many signs do you have to do to get to 20? I haven't thought that through enough, I guess, but.
How many do you need?
Well, how does the 20 feet work, Dick? Is that the aggregate number of feet that you're allowed with all your signs? Or just one sign?
Yeah, that's right. And it wouldn't really be a bother to people that have 1 acre. Probably they could probably, use 20 foot. No, yeah, I don't know.
20 square feet is pretty big. That's a 4x5 sign. That's pretty big.
Very big.
It's a lot bigger than the customary real estate signs or the contractor signs or even the election signs that we see.
Yeah, I don't mind the size. I mean, it's just, is there a limit on how many you can put out? No? Good. All right.
I think that would be a problem.
I'm okay with it.
Is the size designation something, I'm sorry, is it something which is new and being proposed, or is that a holdover from the old text? Anyone?
I'm just looking here. I think it's new. Because I don't, although wait, there is. Yeah, so the issue was, if you look on page 3 of the local law, you'll see sort of a chart laid out that had different sizes for different types of signs, which we can't have. You have to regulate all the sizes, kind of all the types of signs in the same manner.
And they landed on, okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so that chart where you see A, B, C, D with sign type, maximum size, number, that's all struck out. And then on the next page, you have size and location for all for the types of signs that are regulated there. And that's where it says the signs can't exceed 10 square feet or 5 linear feet in any single directional plane.
Right. Okay. That sounds more.
Yeah, but if you go to page 5, then this is where they want, you have a maximum of 20 square feet of, on any one property.
Yep, when multiple signs are placed.
Yeah.
On a single residential property, the total area shall not exceed 20 square feet for each detached principal dwelling unit, including signs placed by the owner on the contiguous town right of way.
Okay, good.
So
you're limited to 20 square feet for the total area.
But any one sign can't be bigger than 10
So that's probably 2 signs that people can put out.
Sure.
No more than that.
They could put out 10 feet long. Yeah.
Put 5 or 10 on, as long as they don't exceed the 20 square feet.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
I'm all okay.
Yeah.
One of the problems I think that I see all the time around town is that there's just seems to be little enforcement. I mean, there are construction signs that are in the road on my road here that are on the road right away, advertising signs for contractors, and they've been there long after the project's over and they're still there.
Right. They become, yes, that's right. Not temporary, not 30 days. Exactly. They leave.
And, I'm not the kind of guy to go to my neighbor, and tell them to get rid of the sign, but I'm also not the kind of guy to go to town hall and tell somebody to come take it away. It's like, it's one of the things that maybe we could say in our letter to them is that maybe they ought to work on their is not the right way to put it. We suggest, I don't know, looking at their enforcement protocols along with the change in the legislation.
But the sense is that we don't have any objections to it. So it'll be a very brief memo saying, have at it.
So Felicia will write that memo up. Does the entire board want to see it, or is it okay for the chairman to sign off?
With Bob signing off.
It's going to be probably a sentence or two.
So do we have a motion by the board to send back a no objection memo to the town board with authorizing the chairman to finalize the memo with Felicia?
Motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Did you second your own motion?
I don't know. I thought Tom also motioned. So
It was okay. It was Kanan's motion, and I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion's carried, and we'll do that. Okay. Our next item is the scheduling and looking at the site visit for the Midas Main Street lot. This is 90 Inningwood Road. This is the application for the site development plan, steep slopes, tree removal permit. So we heard it back in May 17th. I think we all agreed that we made some good progress on this, but what we really thought was very important was getting out to see the site. However, I think from what I'm seeing here, putting in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stakes in the middle of this property is woefully inadequate in terms of staking out the area. What we normally see is they put posts in for the corners where the house is going to be, a few where especially with this driveway, which is critically important. Maybe stake out where they're going to cut in the rear of the house. I don't think they need to. I mean, we can schedule a site visit, but before we get there, they really have to do much more than this. We never go out there and just this is like one of those exercises that we do as a what do they call that, orienting
Orienteering.
Yeah, this is I'm not interested in going through the bushes and ticks just to do that. So they really need to.
So if you want to pick a date, and then maybe Bob can call them and ask them to do more detailed stakeout.
Say, Bob?
Yeah.
Bob Cioli?
Bob Cioli?
Bob Cioli.
Yes, Bob Cioli.
You know what I can do, guys? I can have Terry come up with a sketch of the stuff we think should be staked out. Bob, do you want to take a look at it before we give them the go ahead?
Sure, we can still schedule. Assuming that they do it, we can schedule a date. But again, much more. I mean, again, there's so many issues here about the entrance. They've got to stake out where they think they're going to be cutting the hill back, so we get some idea of what those sight lines might look like when they cut back the driveway hills.
If you want to, Bob, if you want to give me like a punch list of things, I'll have Terry come up with a map and circulate it to everyone.
Okay, Dick, and Tom, and we've been on tons of these, site visits. So, any other thoughts that you have? I mean, do you want to see where the septic area? We normally see that it's staked out, and we see where it's going to be put, what's going to be cleared.
So, I think I agree with all those comments, and especially on the roadway, the sight lines. There's a way for us to tell where the origin of the sight line will be up the road around that curve. If you could put a stake on the vision point, maybe we could get a feeling for the amount of cut that's going to happen there.
Right.
The other thing, Bob Cioli, I don't know your experience with being on this property, but I drive by it every day for like 30 years. How do you get up there?
Well, I was going to say that it's not that easy. There's maybe one route, I believe, when they did the erosion controls many years ago, when Velardo did this, I think there's maybe one route and the only way to get up to the top of the hill. And, I'll have him show that on the map. I mean, when you get out there, you can kind of see where it is, but there's only one route and it's still very steep.
So if they could also map that out for us, and so that we get a sense of, what we're in for.
I'll come up with a punch list of items that they'll lay out, Robert. I'll give it to you guys, and just, if you like it, let me know. I'll have Terry come up with something and then send it to Anthony Grau. And if you have anything else you want to add to it before we prepare the map.
Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds fine.
Did we want to set a date, shoot for a date for you guys to do the site walk, or do you want to wait till they give you a map?
Whatever the board wants to do. I'm fine with setting a date to give them a target, but if you want to.
I think it's best to get a date to give them a target.
Yeah. I'm okay with that. So, what's everyone's pleasure in terms of schedule? Normally
Fairly free.
Pardon? Yeah. Mhm.
But I think we need more information, as Bob has suggested. Where's the 25-foot wall going to be? It's going to be hard to get on this site. It's going to be hard to really get a sense of what it's going to be based from what it is.
Yes,
correct. I agree.
Well, I think they really have to stake those things out and tell us, we put a stake at the top of the hill where that's going to be the edge of your cut.
Well, what I'd recommend, they can use different flagging, different colors, different numbers, and they can label it on the laths, give you a map. So at least when you see the colors and the laths and the numbering, you kind of know where the heck you are.
Right. We just want to make sure we have a return map.
Right.
I want to be sure that Bob Cioli's arranged a sky hook for me to get me up there.
This would be a good use of a drone.
So
a drone, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
If except for all the trees. So if we're looking at it,
can we get one? Can we get a drone?
I don't know. I can ask Anthony Grau. But there are a lot of trees here, though.
A lot of trees.
Yeah.
So, Bob Kirkwood, are we looking at a weekend? Would it be the 16th and 17th to put out there and see if they're ready for it?
That would be fine for me. How does it look for everyone else?
I'm fine. Weekends.
I can do earlier in the morning. I'm not here on the 16th, but I can do this Sunday.
I'm sorry. I couldn't hear you.
I'm away on Saturday, but back on Sunday.
Saturdays would be best.
No,
Okay. Sunday would be best for a Kanan.
Sunday would be better. This particular weekend.
Yeah.
So Kanan saying the 17th would be better, Dick.
I can make that work if that's okay. Is it okay with you, Tom? Dick?
Yeah.
I can do it.
My bad. I apologize. This is this coming weekend, right? Hold on.
No, 2 weeks.
You need to give.
Okay. No, I'm okay. So I'm okay. That weekend I'm available both days. Sorry about that.
Okay. So the 16th would be okay?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay, 16th is better for me. That'd be fine. Okay for you, Dick?
Yeah. What?
Why don't we tell them that we'll try to schedule for, say, 10 o'clock on Saturday, the 16th?
All right, 10 a.m. it is.
If they have everything.
10 a.m.?
Yeah, 10 a.m.
All right.
All right. But again, the provision is that they come back and, they map this thing properly and mark it.
We can walk and we can walk up.
Well, the walk up, I think, to Tom's point, again, we should also, as Bob said, get the suggested access route. We don't really need to go out there and get hurt.
It's really steep. It's really
steep. Really steep.
I was thinking it's a shame you can't use the property to the north and west. Maybe go up there, but then you need permission from the property owner.
Right.
Yep. Brenner.
On a side issue on this one, Jennifer, have we heard anything further about the ownership of the land out in front? Did they pursue it with a title company? Did we hear anything from DOT or?
I have not received any further information.
Okay.
Yeah, and you probably won't until the end of the year, when the elections are over.
Okay. All right. Well, it's kind of a stumbling block because, again, reading through, we have some minutes that we're going to take a look at. And, we talked about some of the things that we need to get done on this project before we can really move forward. So, okay. So we'll let them know and we'll look for July 16th. So we have some minutes in front of us that we need to consider. So the first ones are the minutes for the meeting of May 3rd. Any questions, comments, changes?
Nope.
I did have a question about, well, the wording. In the top of page 3, we spoke about that there are a lot of opportunities for residential units on the ground, street, or sublevels. I thought we actually concluded later on, I think we even mentioned that there's just a very small handful of potential sites on King Street that would be conducive. Anyway, did we hear back from the board, by the way, in terms of recommendations on the ground level, street level zoning for residential parking implications, et cetera? Okay. I mean, it's not really a change. If we talked about it at the beginning that there were a lot of opportunities and later on we changed that, I guess I'm fine with it. Anyone have any changes? If not, is there a motion to adopt the minutes of May 3 as is?
Motioned.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No opposed? Motion carried. We have next the minutes of May 17.
I don't have any problems.
Yeah, I had actually one thing I should mention. There are a couple of little wordsmithing things that I'll just send you, Felicia. But on line 20 on page 2, and I don't know if this is going to be the case, but we spoke in terms of the sequencing plan and the need for the truck traffic, chipping, clearing, etc. And again, when you get out there, you see what they're proposing and how they're going to cut, and where they propose to cut. Seems to me that we need to also find out whether or not there are going to be any needs for temporary road obstruction closing or lane closing, Bob, and that should be articulated as well. So I would insert the temporary road obstruction after truck traffic. And then Jennifer, I don't know if you had a chance to look at the bonding issues. So that was on line 32. It's not a change. It's just a question in terms of have we made any progress on that. We're looking at options in terms of what we would do in terms of the improvements, because again, the access to this site is rather extraordinary.
Right. So once they come back to the planning board, I'll be prepared to address that for the board.
Okay. All right. So with that one proposed change, is there a motion to adopt the minutes of May 17?
Motioned.
Okay. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion's carried. We're all set on that. Jennifer, what do we do for the non-meeting minutes? There's no, we can't really adopt them.
We tear them up and throw them out.
Right.
Right. You don't have a quorum to adopt them unless another member has watched the video.
Yeah, how can we do it? Everybody was absent.
Yeah, you don't need to adopt them. They are the clerk's minutes, technically speaking.
Dick and I had a very
if you have any revisions, you can suggest those, but they don't have to be adopted.
Well, in fairness,
we have a meeting. I don't think we have to change that.
It's an informal discussion.
The question is, Sabrina, when are we gonna get the credit for,
You can't get credit for it. It wasn't announced as a training opportunity. The town board needs to announce any training opportunities. that they
rats.
have first. Nobody knew. I did look into it though, so if there are sessions that you folks would like the town board to recognize as training, they need to be requested to be endorsed by the town board prior to them occurring so that proper dissemination of information can be provided to our boards and commissions.
Well, I'm gonna, I'll just be pesky on this. Can't we, it was recorded, right?
Right, the board's not interested in doing it from what I've been told.
Pardon me?
The board is not considering it at this time.
Well, I was thinking that if you could put it on, give it to the WMPF and say, can you put this up? And then people who have already seen it can go forward and the town should be happy.
We could cite the site visit as a mountaineering thing that we can get credit.
There you go.
Rock climbing.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was very impressed with that project that it cost $300 million. But that's inexpensive compared to a new stadium in Buffalo.
Right. Okay, there not being any other business, I don't think, scheduled. Do we have a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Aye.
No objections. Good. All righty, guys. Thanks so much.
Good night, everyone.
Yep.
Bye.
Good night, all.
Couple weeks.
Have a good evening.